So you're all very welcome to the launch of the SOLAS ETBI and NALA Family Learning Research Reporting Guidelines. My name is Fergus Dolan and I work for NALA, and my colleague Katrina Whelan is helping me this morning on kind of just organising the speakers. So the full title of the report is Enabling Intergenerational Learning. It's a background report on family literacy practices in Irish education and training boards. So our first speaker this morning is Andrew Brownlee. Andrew's the Chief Executive Officer of SOLAS, and I'll hand you over to Andrew to launch the report. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Fergus, and good morning, everyone. I hope everyone is doing okay at these very strange and very challenging times. Although it's great to see kind of things like this continue to happen, because they're just so important to what everyone in further education and training is trying to do, and indeed what we're trying to do as a society. So it's a great privilege to be here with you today to launch I think two really important reports where there's been a real substantial base of kind of excellent work going into their production, enabling intergenerational learning, a background report on family literacy practice in ETBs, and also guidelines, case studies and recommendations for family literacy in ETBs moving forward, which I hope will be a really important resource to build on the excellent work that's already been done out there, and kind of build that approach over the next few years. I think the first thing we need to say is it's been the product of a great partnership between SOLAS, between ETBI, and between NALA. It's the first time that family literacy practices and ETBs have been researched at a national level. I think it's an area that can have such an important kind of wider social and community impact, and something we'll continue to invest in. And I think it's really important to say, that this is something that maybe doesn't quite neatly fit into the FET bracket. It's something that crosses over, schools, it crosses over early childhood, it crosses into kind of community development, social inclusion areas. It even crosses into higher education, where there's a lot of really good research that's feeded into this. So, this has to be part of a whole of education approach, and that's something we're very mindful of, and ETBI and NALA are as well, and that's the kind of basis in which we're approaching this. I also think it's very, very timely. I mean, we're in a situation now where all families in across Ireland are completely isolated, really, and even subsets within families. I mean, it's been really inspirational over the last few weeks to see the way ETBs have responded by continuing to deliver learning, by continuing to connect with the learners, and particularly their most vulnerable and marginalised learners in so many innovative ways. And just as an aside, we're trying to have a kind of Twitter conversation as a system today to highlight all of the ways that we've made sure that FET has continued to be open for business and continued to put our learners at the heart of everything we do. And so I'd encourage anyone at this today to engage in that throughout the day. It's also been great to see the resources that NALA has established, the campaign that they've been able to get RTE on board with, around the phone support, the online support that remains available for people, throughout this challenging time to support their literacy and numeracy needs, and also their kind of public health understanding, which I think is a really important aspect of that. ETBI have also put a resource up there by opening up their digital library, which has a whole host of kind of well-being resources and information and guidance there as well. So it's great to see how innovative we're all being to respond. But as many of us know, this is a time where there's now a really strong emphasis on the role of the family and supporting learning. And it's something I think ETBs and indeed NALA have been working on for a number of years, because they really see that being able to support that intergenerational, that family kind of learning type relationship is the key to kind of, addressing intergenerational poverty, intergenerational kind of literacy and numeracy issues. And we all know that it's the most vulnerable that require the most support in this area. You know, they're the ones that can't just rely on kind of online learning delivery. You know, one, because they need that kind of wider support because of the range of kind of social and perhaps family and health issues that many of them face, but also because a lot of them just don't have access to the technology required to engage in learning. So the fact that ETBs have been doing this work, the fact that we're trying to build good practice and best practice around how you do this work in the future, I think is absolutely critical. I think we'll be feeling the benefits right now with the families and the learners that were highlighted in the research reports. Hopefully now they're able to kind of engage effectively in learning because of the work that's gone in before. But there's so much potential now to use the work to equip those families with the skills, you know, provide a toolkit to work with their children, you know, during this time and in the future. And there's so much potential to kind of grow this activity into the future. You know, I think just the impact that it can have is enormous. So I mean, I suppose the other thing I'd like to do is just say thanks to, first of all, the family literacy learners, who I think spoke with such honesty and passion on the benefits of family literacy in the reports, and it really reinforced the importance and really reinforced the value that I was just talking about. I also think we need to thank the excellent research team. So Dr. Maggie Feely and Dr. Anne Hegarty, and Maggie will be talking a little bit about the research in a moment, so I'm looking forward to that. I think we really appreciate the input, as always, from the tutors, the adult literacy organisers, the adult education officers, the PET directors, even the chief executives of the education and training boards. You know, they've really bought into the value of this work. They've contributed to it. They've sponsored it through ETBI, and it's fantastic to really see the buy-in. And again, we have Mary from Limerick Clare ETB kind of talking about, you know, how family literacy is delivered in practice a bit later on as well. Also want to thank the homeschool liaison teachers in schools who also inputted strongly into this work and who are another important cog in the wheel of delivering effective family literacy. I'd also like to say special thanks to Solace's own kind of active inclusion team for coordinating this work and putting so much dedication, so much effort, so much insight into what's coming out of it today. So thanks to the team for that. I think we also need to acknowledge the support of the Exchequer, the Department of Education and Skills, and indeed the European Social Fund, because they actually support a lot of this kind of adult literacy and family literacy work, and it's important to recognise that support. I suppose kind of moving forward from here, I suppose what we say to the ETBs, and Fiona from ETBI is coming up at the end to talk a little bit about how the sector will approach this, is look, this isn't a tick box exercise. It isn't a rigid list of things that every ETB must do. What it is a reflection of kind of the excellent good practice that's out there, and a set of kind of toolkits, guides, recommendations as to how, you know, ETBs, other FET providers can look at building on the good practice and developing the area of family literacy in the future. So I suppose I just hope that the ETBs and indeed all FET providers and anyone with an interest in this takes time to kind of reflect on the guidelines, you know, look at where there might be areas where they can improve existing practice, and you know, maybe kind of identify ideas and share those ideas with their colleagues across the system with regard to how we can all move forward. I think the active inclusion team in Solace looks forward to supporting ETBs and the use of the guidelines and in their implementation. You know, we very much look forward to kind of supporting the work of all the partners involved in this. You know, we've set their recommendations set out in terms of collaboration, in terms of planning and delivery, and in terms of training and development. And you know, I know I had a look through it last night. There's really great stuff in there, really interesting ideas and recommendations with how to move forward. And again, I think it's another reflection of the absolutely critical work that further education and training does through the ETBs, through the other providers, and also that NALA does in terms of engaging our most marginalised people in society and supporting them on that journey to to improve their literacy and numeracy and take them on a pathway through further education and training to develop their skills. So look, I'm not going to say any more. The most important part is coming up, where we hear a little bit more about the work that's been undertaken. But thank you for your time today. Thank you for joining. I think we have over 100 people on listening into the webinar and watching today. So that's fantastic to see. And again, I just think it re-emphasises the importance of this. So I hope you enjoy the rest of the webinar, and thanks again for all your work and all your help.
Okay, thanks very much, Andrew, for launching that, and thanks to you and all the team in the Active Inclusion Unit in SOLAS for your work on this project. Okay, our next speaker is Maggie Feely. Maggie is Research and Training Fellow at UCD, and she's going to give us a brief outline of the research process and the guidelines. Okay, over to you, Maggie.
Hello, good morning, everybody. I'm just popping in to say hello before I put up a few slides to keep you entertained while I'm talking about the research that I carried out with Anne Hegarty, Dr. Anne Hegarty. And I'm going to talk also a little bit about the guidelines that emerged from that process. And I'm pleased to be here to talk about the research, but I'm also very pleased that the excellent work of the ETBs in family literacy is getting the recognition in print that it deserves. It's funny, we finished the desk and field work just over a year ago now, when the world was a very different place. And some of you will have heard us talk about the research and the guidelines at the NALA Family Literacy conferences in the past few years. So much of family literacy work is about relationships and collaborative learning partnerships that it takes some rethinking in our new isolated, socially distanced environments. Yet never have the radically different resources of families to complete this learning care work been more highlighted than during this pandemic, when schooling has become home-based and the time and skills of parents have been more sharply brought into focus. At a time when pressures are great on everyone, for some, the added weight of having unmet literacy needs makes life even harder. It's worrying too that the lost schooling input will mean that some children will be disadvantaged not just in the immediate moments, but also in the longer term. And so the cycle continues. A recent research report carried out by researchers in Maynooth stated, "Not all parents have the skills, time or health to help children with distance learning. And not all schools and pupils have the necessary technology to enable such learning, either." And so we have further acknowledgement here in this research of educational inequalities that most of us have been conscious of for decades, and that family literacy initiatives have been developed to tackle. Whether digital or paper-based, literacy has been a barometer of inequality for a long time, and the work of literacy as suggested now in the FET strategic priority, fostering inclusion, is the work of actively trying to redress those deep-rooted educational inequalities. Our research into family literacy in Irish ETBs was conducted from this egalitarian perspective. What was the aim of the research? So the aim, as stated in the tender document, was to find evidence of best practice and produce guidelines for future work. So what do we do during those busy 6 months from September 2018 to February 2019? In the full report, which people have talked about being online and available today, you'll find a comprehensive literature review that covers a history of family literacy, the findings from national and international family literacy research, and an outline of policy that is pertinent to family literacy. We conducted an online survey of ETBs to map existing provision, and the results are presented in the understanding that incomplete data makes the map indicative rather than precise. But it's worth noting that we had 100% response to that survey, which is very, very unusual in research and shows the interest of the ETBs in this work. So at the time that we did this work, the data, the family literacy figures were not disaggregated from adult literacy in general, and I believe that that is either changed or about to change. In terms of qualitative evidence gathering, we visited each of the 16 ETBs and talked to staff, learners, assisted in classes, ate a lot of biscuits, and even chatted with a few children. It was impossible to select some ETBs to go to because everyone wanted to be part of the research. From these visits, we selected 3 examples of good practice that illustrated different types of family literacy activity: an integrated approach to family literacy through sewing, a school-based FET-JESH partnership, and a family literacy cookery programme developed for those with mental health issues. And what did we find? We found excellent and extensive family literacy work in ETBs. We found skill, experience, enthusiasm, creativity, boundless innovation. We met learners, engaged, retained, and progressed into further training and also into employment. We heard that an adult learning ethos works best and needs to be preserved in family literacy work. We heard about the need for dedicated family literacy coordinators to be resourced, whether that's one or several people, depended on the size of the ETB catchment area. We were told that collaborative partnerships were crucial to getting this work up and running, and that those needed to be resourced. They're time demanding, energy demanding, and that needs to be recognised in terms of the allocation of resources. It was suggested that a central repository and a digital hub, very pertinent at the moment, would support practitioners, and there are various ideas for that to happen through NALA, the ETB, and so on. And we also discovered that robust qualitative and quantitative data, more robust qualitative and quantitative data, is needed if we're to have the evidence to support recommendations for what happens in family literacy. We need the evidence, we need the proof, and this research is part of that. And so on to the guidelines. Where did they come from? The guidelines are entirely evidence-based. They reflect the views of the whole range of family literacy stakeholders and are the result of the coding and analysis of the many voices that we heard. That we recorded, that we transcribed, and that we analysed during our 6-month study. We used MaxQDA, which is a computer-assisted qualitative data analytical tool that ensured that no data was lost, every word was coded, and all the views were taken into account in the resulting guidelines, which you will hopefully become familiar with very soon. There are 14 of these guidelines in total, and they are divided into 3 groups in the report for ease, really. The first group is about reflection, so areas for each ETB to think about, to talk about, to discuss in developing a family literacy strategy. The second group are to do with practice, so the courses, the programs, the publicity, the recording and sharing of successes, and most importantly, ensuring that those with the greatest need get priority in accessing provision. Finally, the third group are about ensuring the ongoing stability and relevance of the provision and gathering qualitative and quantitative data to illustrate the extent and the success of the work. Well-resourced support for learners and staff were key issues for everyone we talked to, and this group of guidelines ensure that this part of the work is not neglected. So, the guidelines, as you will see if you read the chapter where they are discussed in the longer report, are not meant to be prescriptive. Rather, they are signposts. They're signposts, excuse me, in a process of dialogue and action that is local, inclusive, collaborative, and responsive to the needs of particular communities. They will vary from one place to the other. We envisage that each ETB facilitating the establishment of a family literacy programme will set up a family literacy multidisciplinary collaborative partnership, perhaps with a small core membership, because people told us, you know, there were endless meetings and endless numbers of people coming to meetings. So a small core membership of those already directed by policy and funding to encourage family literacy. So, for example, the ETBs, the JESH, homeschool liaison personnel, children and young people services committees, the CIPSEs, and local libraries all have policy statements and all have funding for family literacy. They all need to be working together, pooling resources, experience, connections. There might then be a wider group who would also feed into and help elaborate and develop a local family literacy strategy. In particular, those in community who have formed bonds of trust, which takes a lot of time, with particular individuals and groups, can be vital connections between ETBs and those who find adult learning hardest to reach. Our research provides robust evidence that intergenerational or family literacy is a multifaceted approach to literacy learning that brings substantial benefits to families, schools, and communities. It is win, win, win. The goal now is to strengthen family literacy provision so that it reaches as many families as possible and bit by bit contributes to more literacy equality for adults and children in Ireland, who through our inadequate system we have most disadvantaged. I think that next we're going to hear about how in some places the important thing, the real practical work of implementing the guidelines has already begun. For my part, thank you for listening, and I hope that the reports are of use to you in your ongoing and vitally important work. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Maggie. That was really comprehensive, and I like the message at the end where you said the goal now has to be to strengthen family literacy work in the ETB adult literacy sector. So thanks again. Our next speaker is Mary Flanagan. Mary is the Family Literacy Coordinator with Limerick and Clare ETB, and Mary is going to talk to you about her thoughts on implementing the guidelines. Okay, Mary, all the best.
Okay, good morning, everybody. Now I'll just get my screen up here. Yeah. Okay. Can everybody see that?
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Your screen up, Mary, is okay. Yeah.
We don't need to do anything else now. Okay, so good morning, everybody, and thank you to Andrew for launching the very welcome research today and his understanding of family literacy work, and to Maggie for providing the overview. Maggie Feely and Anne Hegarty have put what I would say an heroic effort into gathering a national picture of family literacy in Ireland, and this is a solid and trailblazing research will become a milestone reference both nationally and internationally. So I've been asked, can everybody see that some little thing is showing there now? Okay.
Well, we can see your first slide, and
okay, so there's
it's all
something
fine.
about attendees there coming up. Okay, throughout the presentation.
No.
Okay, so throughout the presentation today, I've been asked, I'll be showing some examples of family literacy work so that we can look at what it is we're talking about. I've been asked to share some thoughts on why family literacy is important and how we are planning to use the guidelines in our local ETB. So family literacy sits within adult literacy service in the further education and training sector. And education and training boards are part of SOLAS, the National Education and Training Authority. So education means to draw out potential. So family literacy unlocks the potential across generations in families, and it provides outreach to those who may not enter education normally. And this is why family literacy as a methodology works. This latest research shows for many adults, the family literacy program can be that first step to building up confidence in a person's ability to learn. They can then progress on to developing new skills, taking on a course, training opportunities, or gaining a job. For children, this can have a very positive impact on their individual attainment and learning journey. In Clare, we use the term family learning rather than family literacy purposefully. We have a holistic range of happy and fun, positive learning experiences on offer, and literacy in its broadest sense, alongside language development, are integral to all our courses. But today I'll use family literacy. Over the past 20 years working in family literacy, I've been privileged to see parents discover hope, raising their aspirations and seeing a positive, different future for their children, families. And can you still see the PowerPoint now?
Yes, we can see the slide with family learning parent.
That's fine, yeah. So over the past 20 years, I've been privileged to see parents discover hope, raising aspirations and seeing a positive, different future for themselves and their families. And time and again, family literacy success benefits not only the person, but the family and the wider community. So family literacy gives individuals confidence to become more active citizens. Parents are the first and most important and longest teachers of their child. In fact, they are experts on their children. And the home is a very valuable learning place. And these are two key messages in family literacy. Parents may underestimate how important they are, not only in their children's very early years, but also later on as children observe how parents cope with life, including stressful situations like now. The home is where children first meet literacy within the family, and the original meaning of the term family literacy comes from this. Children see in a very natural way how the family use literacy, numeracy, and ICT in order to communicate and carry out tasks in everyday life. Children see the need to be literate. They see a need to learn long before they start school. And by the time children reach preschool or primary school, parents have already taught their children to eat, to walk, to speak, to dress, to wash themselves, as well as passing on their culture. So how do we learn? Children learn through making mistakes, having another go, and trying again. Just like adults. So adults learn in the same way, and family literacy courses provide a safe learning environment for the most vulnerable learners. Children spend about 15% of their time in school, and the remaining 85% is spent at home or in their community, and this represents a potentially significant opportunity for learning. With the COVID-19 crisis, the home is now the primary learning environment, and parents can feel a lot of pressure, especially those dealing with other issues. Limerick and Clare ETB have gathered numerous online supports for homeschooling help on clarefamilylearning.org. And these resources are divided into early years, primary, second level, and resources for parents themselves. The term family literacy covers now a range of courses provided free to parents who may have unmet literacy or language needs, or those who need additional supports. Some are parent only and others are parent and child together. This 2-for-1 approach, where parents attend to support their children and then learn from themselves, is what makes family literacy special. Most parents want to continue on to other courses at the end of the short courses. Family literacy encourages members to learn together as and within a family, with a focus on this intergenerational learning, and also then to focus on supporting their children's learning. Family literacy can be a great way to share cultures and family traditions, as parents meet other people from different backgrounds, breaking down social isolation and promoting well-being, something which will probably need a lot more resourcing following this lockdown. Each class needs to be the best possible class, mostly building on the skills parents already know. So having accomplished a task, parents leave feeling they've been successful and want to come back for more. This research mentions underrepresented groups and those who have lost trust in the system, and these are the people who can benefit most from taking part. These are the parents who we want to encourage back to learning, and the impact of changing their view of learning to a positive experience has huge ramifications for the family, community, and the state. This may mean numerous attempts to contact them and using a variety of once-off or taster sessions to encourage parents in the door. It is slow and delicate work for family literacy staff to build up trust and confidence. The reality of working close to learners means that we know our priority parents have complex lives, and these lives may not fit easily into the further education and training program and learner support system. And I would agree with the guidelines, the need for a user-friendly way of gathering data in line with the learner-centered ethos in adult literacy work. So that's just an overview of why family learning and family literacy is important. So we're going to talk about, we've already met as a wide ETB about discussing how we use the family literacy guidelines. And as Maggie said, they've been split into 3 areas: valuing the approach, delivering programs, and future-proofing for responsive family literacy. So how the guidelines might be used will be different probably in each ETB. Some ETBs may take one guideline and progress work on that, while others may tackle 1 or 2 or more, or a balance. LCETB plan to work across the 3 locations together, Clare, Limerick City and Limerick County, to share good practice already in place, look at matters which need support. So each of these areas is quite varied, and different supports would be needed in the city to those in a rural small town, and staff locally know what's best for their areas. So what we feel is the guidelines and working together on them is a great way to refocus as an ETB on family literacy. It allows us to bring family literacy staff together and to create this united approach to a family literacy strategy, and to create out of it an implementation plan, and then to decide some actions to work on this year. We may revisit the guidelines on a cyclical basis, perhaps twice a year, to look at progress, success, and what's next. And we will be working on training staff on a regular basis. Building capacity of staff for continuity of work and sharing skills is important. And we plan to expand on valuing the parent's role and voice, which can be hard to capture at times, but we're going to focus on that. Celebrating our achievements is suggested in the guidelines, And perhaps with our new learned COVID-19 online IT skills, we can record more of our celebrations, and this can act as a promotional tool as well as an evaluation tool. Nationally, having national guidelines allows for consistency of quality in family literacy. The guidelines will support the delivery of national family literacy tutor training and is very useful for those new to the topic. As Maggie has mentioned, we need to confirm a commitment to name family literacy in a budget nationally, as it may not happen. This work is difficult. It isn't easy for people to do, and it requires greater effort. So I think having it named is important. Having an identifiable family learning person to link to for the homeschool service in DEIS schools and other community groups in each ETB is vital to maximise the potential opportunities across the range of provision. It really is very much appreciated that SOLAS, ETBI and NALA have contributed to this research, which will be used to inform policy going forward. And we hope to grow our own family literacy evidence locally and nationally. This will further contribute to the dynamic and sustainable growth of family literacy across Ireland, and in doing so, the inclusion of those who have been furthest away from learning pathways, and plays into the new SOLAS strategy. So family literacy really is about making what seems impossible possible. Thank you for listening and stay safe. And since you can't come to Clare, I've just given you a little taster of what to look forward to.
Thanks a million, Mary. That was a lovely taster. And I totally agree with the point that you and Maggie made about family literacy has to be named in a budget nationally in order for it to make it happen more. So that was great summary, and you can see from the photographs and what you explained the huge array of activities that are happening in Ennis and in Limerick and Clare ETB in the family learning sphere. Thanks, Mary. Okay, our final speaker this morning is Fiona Maloney. Fiona is Director of Further Education Training Support Services at Education and Training Boards Ireland, and she's going to give a conclusion to the webinar. Okay, Fiona.
Can you see that slide, Fergus?
Yes.
Perfect. Good morning, colleagues, and thank you, Nala, and our colleagues and researchers for a fantastic overview and launch of the fabulous Family Learning Guidelines. ETBI are particularly delighted to have partnered with SOLAS and NALA on the development of the Family Learning Guidelines, which, along with the accompanying case studies report, has been launched today. It's widely acknowledged that parents are first and primary educators of their children, and probably at no time has this been more relevant than in the current climate. Parents are at home schooling their children, a task that does not always come naturally, and many will struggle to find creative and innovative ways of engaging their children in learning activities, while possibly juggling working from home and caring for other family members. ETBI welcome the Family Learning Guidelines, the case studies and the recommendations, which are very reflective of the innovative best practices in family literacy programs across all 16 education and training boards. The launch of the Family Learning Guidelines is indeed timely and will further enhance the impressive complement of ETB family learning projects. ETBs will utilise the guidelines and will remain at the forefront of creating programmes that are engaging for parents and for children alike. The benefits of family learning to parents, children, the wider family members, schools and communities cannot be underestimated. And while this is known by all of the practitioners within the ETBs, it is certainly now evidenced and has been demonstrated adequately through the variety of case studies that have been included in the report by the researchers. I would obviously like to acknowledge the support of the 16 education training boards, the directors of further education training, the adult education officers, the adult literacy organisers, the tutors, the resource workers, the family learning coordinators, and all other ETB Fed staff who have contributed so selflessly to the research. In particular, I would like to thank Siobhan McEntee, who is our ETBI Active Inclusion Manager, who along with Kilkenny Carlow ETB, Limerick-Clare ETB and Waterford Wexford ETB, and most importantly the learners within those ETBs, who contributed so openly and so honestly to the case studies and research process. They've demonstrated better than any of us ever could how family literacy supports access to a richer educational experience for children and for the parents. And as Mary just acknowledged a few moments ago, the opportunities that family learning opens to that wider family and the community also opens up the opportunities for further engagement in further education training for all of the learners across all of our communities. So I'd say well done to Maggie, to Anne, to all of the ETBs, to SOLAS for providing the funding, the guidance and support, and to NALA for producing the report today and the guidelines. We say thank you very much and thank you for the webinar.
Thanks very much, Fiona. A lovely sum up. Yeah, I'd agree with your point that we're kind of aware of the benefits, they can't be underestimated, of family learning, but the researchers and the learners who participated in the research really emphasize that. And thanks again to Maggie Feely and Anne Hegarty for the research. Now we've got a few minutes left to take some questions. So what we're going to ask you to do for the questions is to scroll down on the right hand drop down to questions. Don't go to chat, go to questions. Write in your questions there. And before you write in the question, write in the name of the person who you want to answer the question. So Andrew, Mary, Maggie or Fiona, write your question, and then my colleague Katrina will call out, read out the questions, and whoever is for can turn on their mic and answer that question. And just to repeat, as Andrew said, the research reports are on the SOLAS website in the library section, in the Active Inclusion Unit, and on the NALA website, so you can get the reports there. So if you just write in the questions there, my colleague Katrina will read those out. Okay, thanks again to all the speakers. That was really comprehensive. The technology seemed to work for us. Everyone stuck to their time and made it interesting, and yeah, it was lovely. Thank you. Okay, go with questions then.
I don't see any questions so far, but if you'd like to raise your hand, alternatively, I can scroll down to your name and unmute you, and you can ask your question.
Okay, so for just if you're not clear on that, then if you on the attendees, if you click on the list, there's a little hand signal. If you click on that, that means you've raised your hand, and Katrina will go to you and she'll unmute you, and then you can verbally ask your question if you prefer that.
Okay, so I have a question from Elaine Colan. Elaine, I'm just going to unmute you.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for that lovely presentation, Andrew and Fiona and Maggie. I actually just wanted to flag that I don't see an option to chat on my screen. So I don't know if you have to turn that feature on.
Okay, and is there a questions box? Because some people were writing in questions for the first 20 minutes of the webinar. So on the question section, not the chat function, is that questions box still? People were writing in questions there.
Okay, I don't see it, so maybe others are having that issue. So I would suggest going with the raise the hand option.
Okay, thanks.
I don't see it on my
Thanks,
screen anyway.
Thanks, Elaine.
I see a few questions starting to come in. The first one is for Maggie. It's from Ellen Dillon, and she says, I know that it's being encouraged to have smaller groups, but I just wondered if it's also an idea to encourage ALOs to make all tutors aware of family learning, since many of our adult learners in adult education centres are parents.
Maggie, you're still muted. Could you unmute yourself? Yeah, now go ahead, Maggie.
Doesn't happen very often that I'm muted. Some would be pleased about that. I think that the point that you're making is a good one. I think that when you get your hands on the full report and have a read at it, you'll see that we suggest many ways in which the benefits of family learning can be extended to others who are outside the system now, but also to those who are within the system. And in one ETB, I can't remember which one it was, we were talking about the possibility of having, it was an ETB that was running predominantly, craft and traditional male activities, what used to be traditional male activities, woodwork and stuff like that. And we talked about the possibility of having family literacy, family learning moments over lunchtime, for example, where fathers or prospective fathers or aspiring fathers or anybody else who was there could participate in family learning. So I think your point is right. That if, yes, the numbers need to be small for things to work smoothly, but I think that we can broaden the group of people who have access to those, whilst, I mean, it's a delicate thing, as Mary said, whilst preserving the idea of equity, that there are those who will jump into classes for family literacy, and there are others who will be more reticent, and we need to find ways of making sure that those who are most in need get first shout at being part of those groups. I hope that isn't too rambly and that answers your question.
Thank you, Maggie. There's a question for Andrew from Mary Roach Cleary. Can we look forward to family literacy being named for ring-fenced funding for 2021?
Andrew, your microphone's still muted. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. Well, I think what you can see from the launch of the report today, all the work that's gone into it, the fact that it's called out in our new strategy, and the fact that it's a really strong focus of our active inclusion team, is that we'll be encouraging all of the people, all the ETBs, the FET providers that we fund to invest in this area. As a general approach, we're trying to move away, and I know this probably isn't what you're looking to hear, but we're trying to move away from line-to-line budgeting. And what we're trying to do is empower the ETBs to make the decisions on the needs that they need to address most at a kind of regional level. We think they're in the best position to do it. And with regards to family literacy, it's clear a lot of the ETBs are very, very committed to this area. So I suppose what I would say is I would expect investment to rise. But in terms of doing that kind of line-by-line budgeting approach, that's something we're trying to move away from and trying to over time kind of simplify the funding model for ETBs and other FET providers, so that they're the ones that can make the call on where the areas of greatest need are.
Thank you very much. There's a general question from Sinead Hurley, if any of the panelists want to come in on this one. It's a general question with regard to whether there are plans to put in place a central repository of family learning resources. If any of the panelists want to answer that one.
Katrina, I can take that if you want. It's Fiona.
Thank you.
Andrew made reference early on the webinar about the ETBI digital library, which you'll find on the ETBI website, and I would suggest that we would include them as a resource there for staff, for the public, as would be appropriate. We'll take your guidance on that, and we can make that available as soon as you want us to. So that would be one approach to it.
Okay, thank you.
Mary Flanagan here. Could I just mention Clare Family Learning website has quite a bit of resources on it, but that are used nationally. But we don't hold, like NALA also have quite a large number of family literacy resources available as well. So there are a number of locations at the moment.
Thank you both very much. I'll just go through the attendee list once more, and if anybody has a hand up, I'll try and get to their question if I haven't got to it in the chat. Okay, Mary Stokes. Mary, I've just unmuted you if you want to go ahead.
Yeah, great. Thank you very much for everyone for all of the wonderful work. My question inevitably coming from the National Centre for Guidance in Education and recognising that there has been a long-standing integration of guidance into literacy provision, and that reaching the hard to reach has been part of outreach in adult guidance service provision over the years. I was curious, was there, as part of the research, did it come up, and was there any evidence of support for guidance from guidance services in the ETBs, the Adult Education Guidance Services and Information Services? Did that come up during the research, or was there as a support? Because it certainly is ITABI, for example, would give a great example of integrated guidance, and it's a significant one in terms of trust relationships and in terms of supporting people as they move along and through different education routes.
So if there's any of the panelists would like to take that one.
Mary Flanagan here. I'm Mary. Just in response I can speak from Clare and our work. We would have the guidance service coming in at the end of any long course, and some of our courses would actually travel to, let's say, exhibitions, for example, in LIT on the sewing or the fashion display dates, so that we bring them into third level as well. So that we do have quite a bit of guidance as part and parcel of family literacy work. And I think that would be in most ETBs.
Okay.
Katrina, I just see a question in from Rosario Cooney in Mayo, and she's asking where can the report be found. So she said she couldn't click it open on the NALA website. She wondered, was it a local issue? It's definitely on SOLAS website. You go to library and then you go to active inclusion unit. It's also on the NALA website. After this webinar, I'll check with my colleague to see can it be clicked open, but that's where you can find them. They're on the two websites.
Fergus is also on the ETBI website as well.
Oh, sorry, Fiona, it's also on the ETBI website. Thanks a million. Yeah.
And then Fergus, I just have one question in the question box from Paul O'Connor. Will you send a link to the family literacy guidelines as published today?
Yes. Yes.
Thank you.
So, Katrina, we might wrap it up there because we've gone 10 minutes over time. I think you managed to get the questions out anyway.
Yep.
So just like to say thanks again to Andrew, Maggie, Mary and Fiona for a really excellent launch. And it was informative and it was a bit uplifting. And thanks for giving us your time. Thanks everyone for listening in. I see we had 101, which is a max for a webinar, and I did see some people were trying to log in after. I thought that we only had less than 100 booked in, but anyway, that's good that it's full, and that shows the interest there is in it. So thanks everyone. The research